Hello, and welcome to Mid-Market Leaders, the podcast featuring leaders from some of America's most impactful but lesser-known companies. My name is Jeff Cass. I'm an executive coach here in Charlotte, North Carolina, who retired in 2023 after more than 30 years of leadership in corporate America, and I'll be your host. My guest today is Mike Tinkey, who is the president of Eagle Crusher, a family-owned manufacturing company who has had a rich 100-year history operating in Ohio. Eagle makes heavy-duty equipment used to crush, screen, and convey many different types of rock and aggregates. I know you guys do a lot more, but Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah. You and I have a unique history here, right? Because you and I both went to the same college, a small college in Western Pennsylvania called Grove City College. We both graduated in 1989, and we both ended up spending most of our careers in Ohio. So let's start there. Tell us a little bit about why Grove City and then how you ended up in Ohio.
For me, it was pretty simple. I was actually born and raised in Grove City, Pennsylvania. I was what they called a county. I lived right across the street. So my dorm was actually my parents' house. I had opportunities to go elsewhere, but since I was paying for my own education, I chose the cheapest value. And since I had free room and board with my parents, it made it a lot easier to make that decision. But I love Grove City. It was a great time there. I learned a lot and helped me springboard me into my career. Moved to Cleveland right after I graduated and had culture shock after growing up in a small town. Moving to Cleveland was a eye opener for me and for my wife. We got married 3 months out of after graduation. It was a great trip, and then was in public accounting there. Loved public accounting. Loved the everything but the hours. My last year, I put in just under 3,000 hours. But back then, I loved it. It was a competitive thing for me. We had a scoreboard of who had the most billable hours, who had the most that were charged out to the clients, and of course, I wanted to be on the top of that list. And so I pushed myself pretty hard. But when you want to have a family, you have to downshift a little and to balance a little bit more. We had an opportunity for a client down in Bucyrus, Ohio, which is a small town in Crawford County. And I took the opportunity to come down here, had culture shock all over again because we moved from the city to cornfields. I learned the difference between corns and beans, and but what a wonderful community. I fell in love with it as soon as we moved here. My boss, at the time, he told me, I said, I don't care where you live, but you got to live in this Colonel Crawford School District. So we moved there and just fell in love with the people. They adopted us like we were family. Just great people, would do anything for us. And that's why I really love the community. We're located in the same county. So I did bounce out of that company into public accounting once again to be a CEO, which was interesting. They never had one. I never was one. So we all learned together. But I truly love the manufacturing process. And that's why I ended up back here. And I was just very fortunate to be here. And it's just an interesting story on how I landed here when I was.
So let's go back 1 second though, if we
Yeah,
can.
sure.
So Grove City, first of all, one of the best values in education throughout the country. It has been ranked that way. One of the hardest to get into as well. So it was a good choice for you, especially since you were in this small town, right?
Yes, yeah. And they probably took a little liberty of, I think, being from town, they probably opened it up a little bit. And so it was a good opportunity for me to get in. And I love the school and learned a lot there. So,
Yeah, and ironically, my wife was an accounting major, graduated the same time as you. We ended
yes.
up in Ohio, but you ended up back in a small town then in Bucyrus not long after you graduated. So was it good to go back to a small town for you, or did you miss some of the things in Cleveland that were a little unique with a larger company or a larger city?
I love both experiences. In Cleveland, I learned that we had friends that we played. We had a poker night from people in the office, and I'd get on the turnpike to drive 45 minutes to go to somebody's house to play cards. Just a different environment. I played sand volleyball downtown Cleveland, which was a 35-minute drive down the interstate. Harder to get involved if you want to get involved in donating your time. They want the first step is telemarketing and calling and looking for donations, as opposed to when I moved down to Bucyrus. I believe I was on 5 different boards of directors. I was president of the chamber, president of Rotary. I was on a hospice board. all you had to do was say yes, and you were involved. But I really loved the people aspect. The people that I knew in Cleveland were the people I worked with, the people my wife worked with, and a couple of neighbors down here. And part of it had to do with raising kids. Once your kids get into school, you branch out and you have a whole new group of whole new social groups to get involved with. But again, they took us in like family, and I'll never forget what they've done for us, especially since all of our family is still in Grove City.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So now let's talk a little bit about Eagle Crusher. So you've been there going on what, 23 years. You
Yes.
were the CFO for a big part of that time, right? And then you became
Yeah.
president. So tell us how that, first of all, how you got in the business and then how that evolved for you.
Yeah. So the crazy way I got in, I do believe in karma or whatever you want to call it, but our receptionist at the old manufacturing facility that brought me to town, I would reach out to her quite often to check in with the CFO there to make sure she was doing okay. But I talked to the receptionist quite often, and I knew the receptionist was not happy because the company was closing down, and so I helped her land a job at the accounting firm I was at. She never had accounting experience. I brought her in. I knew she was a good person. We could teach her the basics, and she came in and thrived and ended up working for a client, and didn't talk to her much after that. But she had heard that I was looking to leave the accounting firm, and she gave me a call out of the blue and said, "Hey, I've heard you're looking to leave, and I don't know if you saw the CFO job in the local Galion newspaper." And I'm like, "Who looks for a CFO job in a local newspaper? Not me." Of course, I'm dating myself when I say newspapers, but back then you go to Columbus or you look at a big city for opportunities. And if she would have not called me, I would not have found the opportunity. I turned the resume in. I was the first one. Suzanne hired me before I even got to meet the gentleman that I was going to replace that was retiring at the time. And we just hit it off, and I knew I found my home.
Okay. Okay. So how long then as the CFO there at Eagle Crusher?
So I was a CFO for just a little over 20 years. Loved it. I just lived and breathed it. And the nice thing was is a little bit of a flexible schedule that I could go to my kids' sports and help coach everything. And then once they went to bed, I can finish up things at home because it's such a computer-driven job.
Mm,
And as one of my friends said, I can solve all the world's problems with spreadsheets. And so I took that as a
mm.
great compliment coming from another accountant, but it really was my identity for a long time. So as Suzanne, she was our CEO, or she is our CEO, sorry, and was our president, and she owns the company. She gave me more and more responsibilities over the last 5, 6, 7 years. Our human resource VP retired, and I took over that department, brought somebody in, also took over IT and purchasing and inventory, and brought somebody
Okay.
in there as well. So, been bringing along a group of people, and then eventually, when Suzanne wanted to pass the torch along 3 years ago to me, so I was somewhat prepared because it was a slow transition that we had talked about, and but I'm just very grateful for the opportunity because going from accounting to where you're buried knee deep in spreadsheets that actually dealing with all the people issues, it's definitely it's a change.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I'm just thankful for the opportunity.
Something interesting there. It seems like she gave you experiences that helped you be prepared for a president's role as you were still in the CFO role. So that brings up another question because finding and developing good, talented people is one of our biggest challenges, I think, in all industries. How do you guys do that?
So it's been an interesting 3 years that we've been through. I won't even mention the 2019, 2020, which was interesting for everybody, but
Mm,
we had a large amount of growth in 23 and plenty of reasons behind that. Our industry was very strong, but there's a lot of things internally as well. And of course, with quick growth comes a lot of new hires, and we had safety issues, quality issues, a lot of turnover, tremendous amount of turnover. I would, without quoting numbers, I would say somewhere into the 70 to 80% of our total employment was turned over once.
Oh my gosh.
just because
Wow.
we had
Just in
such
2023?
yes, we had just such a push on growth. We hired a recruiter internally because it was costing us a fortune to go out and find people. So we actually hired a person to do only recruiting that year.
Okay.
And so that was a huge issue for us. But I took a step back after that. And instead of just going and rinsing and repeating and doing the same thing again in 24, I thought, well, let's take another look at this. And instead of worrying about hiring, I think we really need to worry about retention. And so I put a big focus on the retention aspect. And I really wanted to have a place where people feel valued, they want to come and work. And they did up until 23, where it was just turmoil because of the growth. So unfortunately, our sales leveled off for us in 24, and it gave us the opportunity to really make a push on the retention side of it. So we did a few things. We hired a success coach, which I would highly recommend to people that struggle with this issue. We brought in an outside person. She was here to just answer questions, a lot related to work, a lot relating to growth, and we put together personal plans or growth plans for people, but also there's outside stuff. Young kids looking to find a place to rent or having struggles with putting a budget together. So she was just a resource for our employees. And I think they really appreciated having someone to go to that they could trust, that would keep information confidential. And I think it was a great step for us. But
What did you call that position? Retention coach?
yeah, it was a retention coach that it was a success coach. So it was basically their success that we wanted to bring success to that person, not just inside the walls at work, but also outside. So I was really happy that we came up with that. And actually it was our VP of Human Resources, Mandy Webb, that came up with that, and just a great tool for us.
Okay. So 2023, a lot of growth. Were you adding a lot of employees then, new employees? Your employment went up? So 70% turnover, but how much of that was brand new employees?
I would say a majority of it. It was just people in and out. We didn't have a great training system. It was just throw them to the fire. We've got to get this production. We were firefighting that year, and so wanted to get us a little more prepared if we have to go through something like that again. We do some outsourcing to help level off the ups and downs, because those wild swings can make it horrible when you've got people working tons of overtime and then they stand. And we really like to have a level playing field, a level build schedule. That's helped a little bit as well. But I think our biggest thing is our leadership program that we went through. Again, Mandy Webb, our VP of Human Resources, over her career has put together this leadership program. Has really never had a chance to put it in place. She'd worked for some big corporations. They never really gave her the opportunity. And the one beautiful thing about working for a small privately held company is we got the freedom to do a lot of things. We can be very flexible, and we can try things, and we encourage that. And so she put together this program called SOAR, and she took volunteers. It was 80 hours of training that she had put together, covering a whole range of topics: team building, communication, problem solving, scheduling tasks, conflict resolution, just topic after topic of not just leadership items, but also just things that could help in anybody's everyday life. And so our first year we had 24 people, which was signed up for this program, which was tremendous. And so she was only going to do one class at 12, and she said, you know what, I'm going to do 2 classes. And she took that on, and it was one Friday out of each month for 10 months. And she did 2 separate classes and made it through the whole thing. It was wonderful. We incorporated people from inside the building to help. We had senior leaders come and have lunch, and just to be able to be there to answer questions or to have discussions. And it was just great to see the team aspect, the things you don't really think about when you put stuff like that together. But as they all work together, they form a bond. And so a lot
So
of
was
our
this
leaders,
training then for all employees potentially?
yes, yep,
Not just
anybody
people
who
that,
signed up.
okay, so any employee could sign up for this, even if
Yeah,
they weren't necessarily in line for a leadership position. Is that right?
correct.
Okay.
So we had a wide array of different departments, different levels, and it was just fantastic to see. Had a being in a small community, I know relatives of some of our employees, and I know one of the sisters of one of our employees pretty well. And we were, I was talking with this one employee's sister and telling her about all the leadership training we're doing, and she goes, and her brother happened to be in the program too. So she goes, I wondered what was going on because I was trying to pick a fight with my brother, and he wouldn't have it, and he took a step back and said, "Yeah, we've been working on conflict resolution." So I'm glad to see that's not just again inside the walls at work, but it can also be taken into their private lives and then at home lives. And I love that part of it because it's not just developing a skill for us, but it's really developing a skill for them to use in their life.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. So how many employees do you have?
Just around 110.
110. Okay.
Yeah.
So has this training then, it's obviously helped you with all employees, but has it also helped you prepare people for leadership positions in the company?
Yeah, yeah. We've had some movement in our shop positions with some reassignments and retirement, and we have brought up numerous people that have been through the program to supervisor roles and to supervise
Mhm.
less people. So instead of having two supervisors in our shop, we've opened it up to a handful. So it gives them an opportunity to have a few people underneath them to learn how to manage those people as opposed to just throwing a group of 30 or more people at them and saying, here you go manage. Good luck.
Mhm.
So it's been fantastic. We've had a lot of people switch departments. So they've gone through the program, and even though they were in welding, they can end up back on our shipping and receiving department, or it's been great to be part of their growth. And is there going to be bumps in the road? Absolutely. And like with
Mhm.
any new leader, but they're hungry, and you can't teach that part of it. There's a lot of time you get people that sometimes they lose that push, they lose that zest, and it's just so refreshing to see this group really push forward and have that hunger to not only grow but to make things better and to help others. So
Yeah. Okay. So the investment's been well worth it then from your
yeah,
standpoint.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Do you see that program continuing as you go forward?
Yeah, actually, we are in round two right now.
Mm.
We have 15 people, I believe, signed up for this one. She made a few changes. We're doing 4 hour sessions instead of 8 hour sessions. As you can imagine, 8 hours is a long time to sit through
Sure.
a learning session. So she broke it up into half days, two of them each month. Still get through it in a 10-month period. But it's been so well received. We actually have some people from the first that'll be helping participate with this one. And
Mm.
we even are looking at taking that first group or maybe a mix of the first and second and maybe going to a next level of training. So it's things that are
Mm.
still like I'm extremely proud that we've been through this, what Mandy's done, and everybody's contributed, not just the people that have been teaching, but the people who've gone through it because they helped shape and mold this whole program.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet. And is there homework with this, or is it just the 8 or 4 hours that they had on site?
Yeah, they do. They do have things that they need to do. They're responsible for. the best to me, like the best story, and I think it was the one on the evaluations that I saw the most was we had each one of them take a DISC assessment.
Mm-hmm.
And then after they took it, Mandy and her team showed them how, well, hey, look, this person is a high D or a high S, and here's how they communicate together. And it was eye-opening. It's so common to think that everybody thinks exactly like you do. And quite honestly, everybody's different.
Yeah.
And to me, that's one of the secrets of my management is I don't have one style. I'm a collaborator. I love pulling things together. I'm a team builder. I'm not the one that's going to just pound my fist and demand things. I like to have people involved, but individually, I'm different with everybody because everybody needs something a little different. Some people need a stick. Some people need a carrot. Some people you have to back off. Some people need extra attention. But it's my job to figure that out. I don't want them. It's not their job to tell me. I need to listen. I've got 2 ears and one mouth, two eyes. I need to watch. I need to listen, and I need to assess the situation and find out what they respond to. And then that's how I manage those individuals. So one of the things I do is I meet once a week with each of my direct reports. And it's great time I get caught up on what's going on in the week. But I think it's even more important to have me be a resource. Hey, what can I do for you? What problems are you having? What can I get for you to make your job easier?
Yeah.
And
that's smart. That's probably very different than what you did as a CFO, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, although ironically, I morphed into that. If you would have known me when I was younger, I was extremely shy, and I fit into the walls, and I was invisible through school. In college, I found my voice when I got a job at the grocery store to help pay for college, and I found my voice there. It was interacting with the public. I was packing. This is back in the days where we packed groceries for everybody and took it to their car. So you couldn't let them take it to the car. We had to take it to the car.
Wow.
But I worked up and I was a cashier talking to people. Then I worked in the office again, dealing with problems and issues. I would open up the store and do their daily books. So it was a progression for me. But I really think I found my voice and found my personality there. But as an accountant, you get buried in a spreadsheet all day long. And so we would go out, my wife and I and friends, and I would just be like, I want to go ramble. I want to talk to everybody, anybody, because I've been looking at a computer all day and not realizing it.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I talked to my friends. Okay, I've talked to you enough. I'm going to go find somebody else. And I was just talking to everybody. And you
needed to be around some people for a while. Yeah.
And so now in the last 3 years, it's different. So as I'm dealing and talking with people, and I love that part of it, but now my off time, the downtime where I'm not being inundated with input, and I can just sit back and take something in or be there just to relax a little.
So talk about that for a minute, because I know my experience when you become a senior leader, you're running an organization, it changes quite a bit. But talk about that change for you. What were the biggest changes going from a CFO? How much time you spent with the organization versus when you became president, and what the I don't want to say task, but what was the primary responsibilities? How did that change for you?
I think the biggest thing when I left the CFO role and brought in Dave Hanner, who's done a fantastic job, and he's taken that role to the next level, which I'm very happy to see. But I felt like I was like my kid was going to college. So my life was that for 20 years. Loved it, passionate about it, worked at home. If I didn't have something to do, I'd create a project because I just wanted us to be better. Didn't have to be in my department, anybody's department. I wanted to help. I wanted to make Eagle the best it could be. And I knew if I could get the data together, what you can measure, you can manage, we'd find things to work on and improve on. So
it was mostly data-based. If I can just So it was all around data, it was all around numbers. It was less about people and more about
Right.
interpreting the numbers, collecting the numbers, that kind of stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, but I've had it's been interesting because I think I got a really good relationship with all of my peers at the time and all the different departments because I'm a problem solver. I love to solve problems. And
Mm-hmm.
if I found out somebody was struggling with something, hey, let me help you out. And then we'd have a personal connection. You get to know people. You work with them so long, and stories, and you know their families and what they've been through and some of the hardships. And so I love that. I love being able to have that social interaction. And so
Okay.
that part wasn't as difficult. I think the biggest thing was my whole value in my life was the number of hours that I put in. My dad taught me work hard, play hard. He was
Mm-hmm.
110% on it at work, and then around the house he would be 110%. Let's if I'm going to have fun, I'm going to have fun. If I'm going to work, I'm going to work. He never said it. I just watched it. And that's
Mm-hmm.
all I gave my all with everything that I've done. And so that's really the tough part is my value is how much work I could get done, how much I did. And the accounting role, it was great because I can always there was more work. I can make more, and I'd feel so great that, hey, I accomplished this, or I helped such and such with this issue. Now it's flipping it over. It's not the quantity of work anymore. It's really the quality. There's times where there is no issues and I'm planning or working, but we've hired Suzanne, she's hired such good people that they're independent, they're hardworking, they're they are on top of it, self-driven. You're trustworthy. All the things you look for in a great employee, and they turn it on and they go. And so sometimes you don't feel as needed as you did as a CFO. Not to say there's not things that I'm working on. It's different things, but sometimes I just have to let them run, and I got to be supportive to them. And to me, that's without with being the problem solver. I always like to have my hands on and doing it. It's taking that step back and saying we have some great people here that can offer great things, and they can solve problems as well. And I need to just be supportive to them to get that done. And that's a tough transition.
Yeah. So let's just chat about that for a minute. As president, how much of your time is devoted to putting the right team in place versus doing tasks?
Wow, that's really interesting. Each day is a little different.
Right.
I would say it's a pretty even split.
Okay.
I would there's it comes and goes in waves.
Mm-hmm.
There's times where there's issues that we're on top of, but it's me setting a clear direction of what I'm looking for, and they can go and execute all of that. So it's me trying to step back
Mm-hmm.
and out of the sort of doing it for them or doing the things and trying to stay on top instead of in the things. So
Yeah. Whereas with the CFO, you were probably doing a lot. You had a lot more tasks to do, I would assume,
yes,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, and a
yeah.
lot
And for
less.
a company our size, I was still doing bank recs. There was a lot of things that I was doing, and we streamlined a lot of processes, but I still was doing a lot of things. My vacations, I have my laptop. I was just talking to somebody about this morning that I would work for an hour every day on vacation because
Mhm.
daily reports had to be done and this had to be done. And part of it was me not letting things go. I should have been training, but that was a situation, and it didn't bother me. And my wife knew, hey, that's your job allows us to do these things, so you do what you got to do. And again, I loved it.
Yeah, yeah. Cool transition with you as the president. So let's take a step back again here and to maybe talk a little bit about Eagle Crusher. What makes the company unique?
I think it's the freedom that we have to do things. We can shift gears, we can change directions pretty quickly. We have so many different individuals. if I gave everybody a disc assessment, it'd be a sky full of stars. It just everybody is everywhere. But I love that part. That the challenge of pulling all of those people together to get them to work together to fit those puzzle pieces,
Mm-hmm.
and to get them excited. And I love that part of it.
Okay.
I think that makes us different from a lot of our competition are bigger publicly traded companies. And so we have a lot of freedoms here. Suzanne gives us a lot of freedoms. She's been hands off with me in this role. I've done some things that I don't know if she would have done, but she's been very supportive. And it's I think just having a we have the business side, we also have the personal side. Again, we're in a very small community here.
Mhm.
We know each other, and the things we do for those who go through hardships, it's heartfelt from us because Suzanne is, man, she loves all the team players here, all the people. She's
Okay.
really taught me. I've been compassionate all my life, and she shows me that you can be extremely successful in a business career and still have that compassion. And I love that. It's probably why I'm still here, just because she cares so deeply about all the team members here at Eagles.
So it sounds like the flexibility that you have, whether it be because of a private company or
Mhm.
maybe that it sounds almost like you have a little bit of a family environment with the business. What would you say contributes to your ability to be flexible? And you didn't say this, but it sounds like you can be very nimble as well if there's changes that need to be
Yeah.
made.
Yeah, I think part of it is we are. It's not all about the bottom line.
Hmm.
It's about providing good jobs, good paying jobs to our people in our community, and not just the jobs, but to help them, especially in times of need. Eh, That's what makes us really special and different because I don't have to make every decision based upon how it's going to impact our bottom line. If we want to donate money to a family that has no money to bury a family member, then we do that. It's not, we don't think twice. It's not about the bottom line and what it provides. We'll be okay, but we're here to help take care of our family, our Eagle family.
Yeah, and I would bet your competitors don't have that kind of flexibility. They're probably in a little bit bigger cities. Maybe they're not as close as a community and maybe not as close as a business, I'm guessing, to allow them to create a team that really pulls together if something needs to be done.
Yeah, I think that's very true, and I love that part of it. I love having the small company feel and the family feel here because it is, there's definitely a family feel to it. That we have our 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 siblings that don't get along, and we kiss and make up, and it's all great. So it's just like a family. Yeah, we do have issues. Everybody does, but at the end of
Yeah.
the day, we're there for each other, and that's what I love about it.
That's a cool culture. That's hard to replicate, but that sounds
Mhm.
like something that you guys have had for a while. Is
Yeah,
Suzanne a
really.
family? Has her family been involved in this business for many years?
Yeah, she's a second generation. She she has been here since I think it was the 80s. And Suzanne, correct me if I apologize if I'm wrong. I don't know. I don't memorize my dates very well, but
Okay.
she is a wonderful, energetic, and I just definitely true mentor to me and to many others here. But and that the part that I can't stress enough is how she really she really allows us the freedom to grow and push forward. And again, we're not serving the bottom line every time. It's we're willing to take some chances and risk on things just to see if we can get bigger and better.
Okay. And maintain that culture, I'm guessing, is always,
Yeah,
part of the
yeah,
consideration. Yeah. Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. Well, speaking of that, you brought up her being a good mentor. Who has been your best coach or mentor during your career?
Wow, I've had quite a few. Going back to my daddy, I told you about him and really what he instilled in me with the work ethic, and I'd be I just owe everything to him for for where I started. But I've had people in my career that I used to be a perfectionist. I had an accountant that I loved because he is the non-accountant that said it's better to be timely than 100% accurate. Just he taught me that it's okay to be close, especially
Hmm.
when you're making business decisions. It's more important to have that information timely.
Okay.
I had a boss, Raymond Shealy, who was my president at Ohio Locomotive Crane. When I came to town, he taught me about giving back to the community. That was huge for me. I had another accountant. It was actually Raymond's nephew that brought me onto their accounting firm in Marion, and he was another non-accountant because he aimed high, and almost every accountant I know is pretty conservative, and they plan, and he was just, let's hire more, let's go, we're going to build this thing, and he he did really well, went out on his own, just he just killed it, and I'm still in touch with him today. He's retired, and I'm just really proud on to see someone like him take all those risks and succeed. And then again, of course, Suzanne with teaching me about the compassion piece, was so
Yeah.
valuable, and that's why I really I value. I think that mentorship is so important. It's something we're talking about here on how we can put something together. I had a case where I had our local high school makes our kids shadow for a day, which is the best program ever. Both my kids found out what they didn't want to do in their
Okay.
careers by shadowing. But I had a couple of kids come, I had three kids come and shadow me, an accountant. Now there's a fun day for you. But
Yeah.
they came in, I I may have done a little bait and switch and told them how great it was, and I actually probably took them to the YMCA to play tennis that day or at lunchtime or something. But we just had fun. We had a good day. Showed them a few things, but ironically, two of them became accountants, and one I'd stayed in touch with, and he just called me a few months ago to just take me to dinner to thank me for putting sort of pulling
Oh,
along in that direction. So I thought, how cool is it that some dumb thing that I thought was dumb, how important it was to him. So that really just helps solidifies that I'm at a point in my career I really want to help people grow. I love the ones that maybe don't have the advantages that a lot of us do, but yet they persevere. We have a couple in our shop that I'm just so proud of because I know where they came from. I know what they went through in life, but I know they've turned their life around, and they get a job and they get a house, and they're have a family, and that's what I'm really proud of. I love that story.
okay. Okay. That's cool. Yeah. So you've talked about a lot of things that come through that you really enjoy about your job or kind of what you're doing now. Talk about, maybe summarize it for us. What do you enjoy most about being president of Equal Crusher?
There's a couple of things. I love getting to know the people. And so one of the things, I stole an idea, which a lot of great ideas are stolen or borrowed. Take your pick, however you want to say it.
Hmm.
But I do a birthday lunch. So every 3 weeks or so, if there's a shop employees that have their birthdays somewhere in the neighborhood, there'll be four, five, six of them that I'll gather. HR provides lunch for us. Instead of a half an hour lunch, we get an hour.
Hmm.
And just to sit down and talk. And I try so hard to steer away from work discussion. I want to just get to know them personally, and sometimes it's difficult. But sometimes people will open up, and I get some great stories.
Okay.
But it's just, to me, it's just great to let them know that we're all the same. Whatever the title is, it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
I came from a family that would give me everything. They really didn't have everything to give financially, and that's okay. I think that's really made me who I am today by having to pull myself up by my bootstraps, work through college, and to push hard to get to where I wanted to. So again, that's why I love that story of some of the people in our shop that have have overcome so much in their lives, and yeah, I love that part of it. I enjoy I enjoy trying to get the challenge of pulling all these different personalities together.
Mhm.
It's extremely difficult, especially if a lot of our team members, it's a great place to work. They've been here for a long time. There's quite a few that have been here longer than me, and
Mhm.
you get it's difficult to change as we get older. Now, for me, I'm odd that way. I love the change. I think it excites me. It gets, what can we do to get better? I think the only change I don't like is when they change an app on my phone when I'm really used to using it. But other than that, I love changes. And I think it's so important. We can't just be stagnant and do the same things we always do as a company. I think we've got to change and we've got to move forward.
Yeah, change is tough for a lot of people. I found that the ones that wanted to change, those are the ones you put in the beginning on some certain projects that really needed somebody that thought differently. But
Mm.
just to summarize what you were saying, so you really enjoyed getting to know the people. You enjoy fostering that culture that you have there, where it's more like a family. It sounds right, and you
Yeah,
enjoy the challenge of creating the team. That's what you said, right?
yeah, yeah. And then I think going through the changes with from 23, and the culture was a little more, I don't know, I'd say top down. And now it's more collaborative where it's so important to listen to everybody. If somebody has, hey, I'm putting this bolt in and then on the drawing it's the wrong size. Everybody
Hmm.
else may think it's irrelevant. Who cares? They can just take care of it. Quite honestly, that same person may come up and have a $50,000 mistake on a drawing and just say, if we don't address it, no, why do I make any comments? Why? Because nobody's listening to me. So we've really tried to open up that communication to listen
Mm.
and to make everybody be part of this, to want it to be better, not just to come in, punch out, and then go home.
Okay, improving the culture that you have there, then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think it's just comes with people wanting to change, and I think we've shuffled people around and new faces and new roles, and that comes it's new ideas, and then
Hmm.
there's bumps with that because there's pushback from those who don't like the change as much as I do, but we all go through it, and it's part of my job to make sure everybody understands why we're going down that path.
Yeah, and you can't take every idea and run with it. That's the other thing. So you got to work
Mhm.
through that to find the best idea that prevails. Yeah. So
Right.
speaking of some of those things, you said 2023 your biggest issue was retention. So now fast forward, you've gotten through that part of it. What's your biggest issue you're dealing with right now in your business?
Yeah, I think right now is probably the uncertainty with the tariffs, the other political changes.
Mhm.
It's not just with us, but I think it's our whole industry. When you're spending seven figures or high six figures on a piece of equipment,
Mhm.
sometimes people just pump the brakes a little bit when they're not quite certain on where things are heading. So I think I think that we're going to get through that. I'm sure that we will, but it's the just getting through that uncertainty and maybe having the rules. Here's where we're at, and then we'll all learn to play by whatever those rules are, and we'll survive through it. We'll thrive at the end of it, and I think that's the biggest thing right now. But we're still seeing. I think we're still seeing a similar year to last year, so I'm happy about that, and we've got plans for growth in the future. So I'm excited about that as well.
Yeah, I think uncertainty is really tough for any business, frankly. Yeah, you just don't know. You're waiting on decisions. Customers are waiting. Those are never a good times. So, yeah, I could understand that. Okay, so we're almost out of time. I got a couple more questions for you here, Mike. Okay. So look at yourself, all right? And you've been through a good career. You've done a lot of different things. There's not many accountants, frankly, that make it to the president's level. It doesn't feel like that path is really open, right? Because you said
True.
they're generally a little bit different type of people. So, what have you learned about yourself during this career that you've had?
Wow. There's probably a handful of things. I think the biggest thing for me is the most beneficial part of my career is to be a chameleon,
Mm,
almost like a consultant where you find out what the weakness is and you go attack it. And sometimes you have to be strong. Sometimes you take a back seat. Sometimes every situation's different. So I think there's times where I've got to be the one carrying a whole conversation. There's people that I talk to that I just sit back and let them run. So to me, just being able to not be static and doing the same thing time after time, and with my style, it's just finding out the role that's needed, stepping in and filling that role. And that's one of the biggest things. Also learning that like emotional intelligence is really important.
Mm-hmm.
Something that probably nobody's talked about 5 years ago, but I think it's such an important thing to be able to not only keep your emotions in check, but sometimes you've got to jump on a sword and be the bigger person and just say, look, hey, it's my fault, whether it is or isn't. Sometimes you just, to calm a situation, to get the end result that you're looking for, you really need to play chess and not just checkers, where you're just making the next move, where you're thinking a couple moves ahead. I think being open-minded is part of that as well, where I'm still learning new things. I'm changing my mind on things.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's growth. I think it's personal growth and being willing to, you and I, if we're standing face to face and I look down on the ground and there's a letter that says M and you see W, guess what? We're both right. It's just a different perspective. So you got to keep an open mind. And I've really
Mm-hmm.
learned to listen, and I love having the conversations that help change my mind. The other thing, to me, it's more than education. Even though Grove City College provided us a great education, I worked with somebody that had a 4.0, passed the CPA first time. In public accounting, they bring you work, and if you can't put it onto paper, you end up not having a job, and that's what happened to this person. And you need that personality. You need to be well rounded. You do have to have that personality. I don't care what role you're playing, because that's where you get your opportunities, and you make your own luck because of those opportunities. You can't just sit back and wait. You've got to jump on that. And the thing on my personal level is, I think I always need to have goals in my life. I think that's probably the fifth and last, or whatever the number is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm big at looking at what am I going to go after? It makes me hungry. Personally, I love to travel. My dad's instilled in me a mission to go visit places, and he was in World War II, and he hitchhiked back across the country, and he would tell me about all these beautiful places, and I'd write them all down, thinking that he saw them on his hitchhike back from San Francisco, being not very geographically not very smart. But then I started laying them out on the map. There's no way he saw all these. And so what I found out is, after he passed, he would look in the National Geographics that he got and see these places. So yeah, there's a list of, I think it was 16 places that I wrote down, and that sort of started our travel journey when the kids got out of the house. And I've knocked out I've knocked out 11. I'm going to knock out 4 here this month. I'll have 1 left, and I don't know if I want to finish the journey, so I may leave that out there for a while. But it's just I love to travel and have that goal of, hey, where are we going next? What am I going to see next? What thing can I knock off of his list? And so that's important. And it's important at work as well. So I do have goals here that I want to reach, but it's not always financial, and that's weird coming from an accountant.
Yeah, you don't seem like a normal accountant, and I'll just paraphrase some of the things that I heard you say. You seem like a very curious person. You seem very adaptable. You said those things are what you learned about yourself, and to me, those were a lot of they were the characteristics of people that were going to be successful. And as you're looking for new employees, people that can continue to move from roles that are traditionally not a president, you got to find people like that.
Right.
Because you seem to really like being around people. You seem to really enjoy it. That seems to be something that you've done that's very different than, I would say, 90% of accountants.
I appreciate that. And to me, I think it's great that people want to try different things. We have a gentleman on the shop floor that he wants to be an accountant. So our CFO now is working with him a little bit. And I think that's great. Why? Yeah. We don't want to have to be pigeonholed into, we're not defined by our title.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's good. You bring whatever skills you bring to the job, and that will help you define where you're going in a career. But that's good. You've had a good career. You're going to continue to have a good career. One final question for you. So, if you were talking to a new executive or a new business leader, what kind of advice would you give to them?
I would say two things. First, and I think this is a general statement for everybody, but I think I've reached a point where I think you need to take care of your health. I keep a goose and the golden egg on my desk for a reason. I think I may have got that back in the Stephen Covey days. I'm really throwing myself back there. But anyhow, it's really true that if you want to keep leaving those golden eggs, you've got to take care of the goose. And I remind my kids that once in a while. I have a daughter who's very A plus personality, and sometimes needs to be slowed down a little to realize you got to take care of yourself if you really want to make a difference. The other thing is really to find balance, and that's very similar. But again, it's not always about the money. It's not always about the growth. But I think you really need to find that balance in your life. It reminds me of just a story that I saw the other day on social media. It talked about if I gave you $1 million, would you take it? And of course, everybody's like, "Oh yeah, I'll take $1 million." And they said, "What if I said I'll give you $1 million, but you won't wake up tomorrow? Would you still take it?" And nobody will take it. So to me, that time is so valuable. Why every morning you should wake up and say it should be worth more than $1 million to you because you woke up and you got the opportunity to move forward. So to me, it's just you find the balance. And again, going back to what my dad taught me is work hard and play hard. And I stick to that.
Yeah, it's hard to maintain that balance. And sometimes the career becomes so important as you get older. It's easy to forget that you got to take care of your body. Your daughter is invincible at this age, right? That's not
right.
Yeah, but those habits start when you're young, and recognizing that it's important. That's a good lesson for her that you've taught her.
Yeah. And I think it's so important because without your health, you can't get all these things accomplished that you want to. And I've seen it a lot, and I've had friends pass away way too young. And again, none of us are guaranteed tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'd like to increase my chances by at least trying to stay healthy through it. So
Yeah, and get through your career, retire, and go do more of that vacation and traveling that you're talking about that you want to do, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Mike, I really enjoyed this discussion. I appreciate it. I would say this. Eagle Crusher could not be more the prototypical middle market company. So you and I haven't talked about this, but 75% of them are private companies. They typically call their own shots. They've been through the ups and downs of many different markets. In 100 years, you guys have obviously done that. And you're a good barometer for the type of people that I want to have on the show. That's why I think they're so interesting. Middle market companies only make up like less than 5% of all businesses in the United States, but they tend to grow 2 to 3 times faster than their really small entrepreneurs or the very large companies. So you are living that. And I think it's cool to hear how that works. So I appreciate the time today. Is it okay if I put in the show notes if people have questions, maybe how they could reach out to you by email or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Not a problem. So I'm always willing to help.
Okay. Look, thank you again. I appreciate you being on the show and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jeff.